All right, folks, we are back hour number 3 of the Thursday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show, which means we're an hour away show-wise from the Friday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show. Okay, we have stressed on this program, and I have stressed for years, especially with regard to the presidential elections, how important the issue of the courts are, and the Supreme Court especially, but even the other courts, the federal courts, and that's what a president has the power to do. At least nominate those people, and usually they're pretty much blanket approved. Joining us now to talk about one such nomination is Larry Pratt, Executive Director of Gun Owners of America, who we welcome baback to the show. Good to talk to you.
Steve, thanks for having me back. Really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. Okay, so the Senate Judiciary Committee is going to begin the first step in taking these judges, the cases up and either approving them or not approving them. And we have a guy named Robert Wilkins, who is a man with a very strong anti-gun record. Usually, as has been pointed out, you don't know. There are unanswered questions and things are theoretical. But this man has a paper trail when it comes to the Second Amendment, correct?
He does. He's already a federal court judge, and he had a chance to rule on a kind of an odd case. A guy, I think his name is Dearth, lives in Canada. He's a U.S. citizen, though, but he's been living in Canada enough that I guess it was not economical for him to maintain a residence. I guess he had long-term plans of living in Canada, probably for business. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. He's still a U.S. citizen without a street address, without owning evidently property in a particular state. So he went to buy a gun, and I suppose he was trying to use his passport, but it didn't have an address, and you have to have some additional piece of evidence that shows that you get mail, like a utility bill, at an address. Well, that's where he was snookered. He couldn't do it. And the judge, Wilkins, said, well, then you can't buy a gun. Besides, you already own one in Canada.
Yeah, that's pretty telling. I will say that, and he responded in his opinion on Second Amendment claims that it didn't matter if a U.S. citizen was legally barred from purchasing a firearm in the U.S. because they already owned a gun in Canada. So that's exactly what he responded.
Extraordinary that any U.S. citizen would, but the judge obviously was looking for a way to prohibit the guy from owning a gun. That's pretty radical.
Yeah, I mean, so what he's saying basically is, Second Amendment, you have a limitation on that one because you already own a gun. So if you already own a gun and it doesn't give you, so therefore you don't really need the other one, so you're not going to get it.
This could actually kick a lot of people in the pants. Missionaries frequently don't have a given address because they know they're going to be out of country for an indefinite period of time. It could happen to military because they may not own a residence. They may have rented, and since they're out of the country for an extended period, if they are, it's going to bite them. Diplomats, anybody on business that is, say, heading up the Tokyo branch of your company, and you're over there for quite an extended period. I had a son that spent 4 years working for his company in South Korea, and he rented out his house, so he was able to keep that as his residence. But what if he'd been a renter himself?
Right. No, that would have caused a big problem. We're talking to Larry Pratt, the director of Gun Owners, executive director of Gun Owners of America, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. And one more thing about this before I move on to another issue, and that is that the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals is already left-leaning. I mean, they did do the right thing on the Heller case, but so his addition to that court would make a big difference.
Oh, it's not a good thing at all, and I don't have to tell anybody, but these are lifetime appointments, so we would be suffering from this guy for a long time. We might even get him overruled in the Supreme Court, but then that means every time that happens, the defendant, or the plaintiff in this case, is going to have to spend lots of money.
Yeah. All right. Let's move down to Orlando for a second. The police in Sanford, where George Zimmerman shot and killed Trayvon Martin, originally they were planning to explicitly ban neighborhood watchmen from carrying guns while on duty. Earlier this month, they announced these new rules, but they've now backed off. The Sanford Police Chief Cecil Smith refused to explain the reversal, but they have reversed it. Now, to take the weapon out of the hand of a legal gun owner in, again, a right to carry state like Florida, who's legally carrying like George Zimmerman was, because something like this happened and the man was found not guilty, would have been a travesty.
It shows that this chief is radically for civilian disarmament. He's not comfortable with people like you and me being able to be about and be able to protect ourselves. He's the kind of elitist that thinks that only the cops should be able to carry guns and they'll protect you. Well, they can't. They're not going to be around when a criminal strikes, unless the criminal was the unluckiest guy in the world not to have seen the cop car out back when he attacked someplace. The chief had a problem besides that. The chief had no authority. He had no more authority than if you or I were to say, hey, you guys in Moscow, you can't drive cars on Moldova Street anymore. Really? Where do we get that authority?
Yeah. No, I agree that he probably wouldn't have that authority, but he did back off. It's interesting. I mean, and then, of course, there's the whole stand your ground. Ted Cruz at a hearing on stand your ground was very respectful and gave his respects to the mother of Trayvon Martin, but basically said to her, your son's case had nothing to do with stand your ground. It was not invoked as a defense. Right.
Yeah, right.
It had nothing to do with stand your ground. So, he almost basically said to her, why are you here?
And had she looked at the numbers, she would have found that as a percentage of blacks compared to a percentage of whites,
the laws benefit the African-American community down there more so than they do the white community. You're right.
So than
but of course,
white.
Then she went from that hearing to Al Sharpton's show, where history gets turned on its head, and that was put forth as not being true, because Cruz did say that. Actually, the chairman of the committee, the Democratic chair of the committee, whose name escapes me, led with how it's preposterous to say that African Americans benefit from stand your ground laws, and Cruz took him to task for saying that. And when they went on Al Sharpton's show, then Trayvon Martin's mom and Sharpton said that Cruz is crazy. It doesn't help African Americans. And she said, all I heard during the trial was stand your ground. Doesn't mean because you heard it had anything to do with that case.
She didn't hear it inside the court.
Right.
She heard it from the media. She heard it from her liberal buddies. But she did not hear it in the court.
It's another urban myth, Larry, just as he was told to stay in the car and not get out. He was never told to stay in the car and not get out. That's just an urban myth.
Probably what killed her son was the broken family that he was forced to deal with. That's often an indicator that a young man is going to have trouble. Of either race, of any race.
Yeah. Well, listen, Larry, I'm up against a hard break. I thank you very much for talking with us, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Look forward to it, Steve.
Thank you.
Very much.
Larry Pratt, Executive Director of Gun Owners of America, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. It's a tragedy, of course. It was a great tragedy. We've been through this. We've talked about this case at one point almost every day nonstop. But it had nothing to do with stand your ground. It wasn't mentioned in the courtroom. It was not a defense. So that's not what George Zimmerman said he based his defense on. All right, folks, so we're coming back much more ahead. Steve Malzberg Show, 877 Newsmax, Newsmax TV and radio.